Welcome to Racial Scale Modelling. This is part 10 of Trumpeter's German 2cm self-propelled gun. Scale is 1 to 35. In this part I'm going to be concentrating on the main gun build. Hopefully we'll get it finished. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. Directly picking up where I left off in part 9. I'm building the guns, and now I'm placing the two of them together onto the main housing. Now there's a little axle that goes in there and separates the two. This also helps both guns to lift and up and down at the same time. Now the actual axle part that goes inside the main unit, this is very, very tight. You may need to open up the hole a little bit. I didn't. I wanted it to be quite stiff because I won't be moving this around too much. But if you do want it to be free moving, you will have to open up this hole a little bit more, just where I'm placing it in now. There's a couple of ammo racks that have to be made up, and these are photo etch parts. So once again, I'm using my bending tool here to bend these into position. And once that's done, I can then put in the little slots in the actual rack itself. Now, there's a few to go in here. Again, it's up to the builder how many they want to put in. Initially, I was going to put them all in, but I had a look at the actual ammo cases themselves, and there's only a limited number of those. So I only put in enough to hold the actual magazines that I have. They were then painted in Rebel Aquacolor 79 greyish blue. This next part, which is two parts sandwiched together, no idea what it's for, but that's got to be in place before I place on the magazine racks and magazines themselves. To place on in the magazines into the rack, I'll just use a little bit of super glue once more to attach these. They are kind of tight though, so you may not wish to use any cement whatsoever. They should still hold in place. And once everything was dry, I was able to place them in. Now these fit in quite nicely. They're very tight, and they may need a little bit of firm handling just to put them in place. But because of that, you need a very minimum amount of cement. Next to go in are two upright pins. Now these upright pins, they'll be used later on in the build to attach the outer armouring of the gun. Don't worry if you can't get these to set up 100% true. You'll be able to manoeuvre them in position later on, even when the cement is set. Next, I'm gluing in the eye sight, well, the gun sight. The instructions say do this once everything is made up, but I've found it easier just to make it up now. It will need painting afterwards. It's still in its brass state as such, but it's easier just to do it now. Wait until it dries, then repaint and attach it to the actual gun. There is numerous amounts of photo etch work to be done here, and it's all essentially brackets and armament guards and so forth to protect the gun and to hold the gun in position. There's actually far too much to go through. I can probably make 3 videos of just the photo etch part for this part of the gun. But generally, like this part, each one has to be made up separately with sidewalls and little brackets that go in. They're very small parts, but you can't tell if they're not there on the gun, so I wouldn't recommend skipping this part. I think it's fairly essential to the build. This guard in particular sits at the top of the housing of the gun. I think it acts as a guard, but I'm not 100% sure, but it's quite a lot of work to go into a small little part. The arm for the gun sights, which I'm making up here, is another complicated little build on its own. Again, they're very small parts, so the camera's not really picking them up. But it's essentially little levers cemented onto backing plates. And these series levers then get placed onto the main gun, It will be up to the user whether they want to be cemented into place or not, because they can be used as a free moving part in most cases. This what I'm making up here though is the one of the seats. There's 3 in total to be made up, and it's just the seat itself, the backrest, and the column that it sits on. So I've got the parts of the sight mechanism waiting for the final assembly stage on the mat there. So I'm concentrating now on the first armament for the guns themselves. As you can see, these are made up with photo etch once more, and these parts will be used to go over the barrel. So the cut-out segments you can just about make out on this photo etch part. The gun barrels slip into. Each segment has an edge to it which has to be placed on. It is very delicate work. You will need a bending tool for this. It's the only way to do it. If you don't have a bending tool, you may want to consider leaving the edges off entirely, but just keep the main plate on. I discovered that there was 2 little photo etch parts that I haven't put on, well 4 and truth be told, and these are like mud guards for the track. So I'm just placing them on now. They're only basically little triangular photo etch parts that go on the outer rim of the wheel arch. Or not the outer rim, the inner rim of the wheel arch. So it's back to the arm or the gun sight. The little bars are in place, and I'm just cementing all the other little pieces to it. If you can see what's on the bench, there's tiny little grab handles to go on the main bars themselves, and it all interlinks onto the main gun. But it's a very complicated process. That's all the sub-assembly done for the main sights, and it's a case of just putting these together. The instructions are not 100% here. It's going to take a lot of studying to make sure you know exactly where you're putting these things. The pictures are clear enough, but the angle of the drawing on the pictures doesn't allow you to see exactly where the contact points are. So make sure you know exactly where you're putting your brackets first of all, which I'm doing here, before putting the arm on. The arm itself, you don't need to cement this in place. This just gets pushed onto the previous brackets that I placed on. And once that's on, I can then start placing on all the little grab handles and so on. Next is to put the barrel armaments on. Now you can cement these in place if you want, but I would recommend not cementing them just yet. Just place them on so you know they're on there and they're ready to go. I would only cement them once everything else is in place, because they may need to manoeuvre into position. The main panels of the armament were actually easy to make up compared to the gun itself. There's a couple of support beams that have to be bent, then put in, so that you bend them into an L shape, like a girder, then place them in. Now, they should have a little kink in them, but don't do that until you've got them on there. You can just bend it all in one go. That way you're assured that everything has got the proper angle. There is some little flat pieces that go on rectangular boxes, as such that they go on at the end, but I'm just placing on now. They have a sort of overlap to it with a little triangular side, so just keep that in mind when you're putting them on. Initially there'll be a little bit of a gap until that's closed up with the actual side of the unit you're putting on. Both plates are getting painted in Revit colour 79 greyish blue. As you can see here, that's them all painted and they're ready to go on. Like the front ornament, when you place them on, they butt up against each other. So this is where you're going to be looking at us cementing them into place. But you want to dry fit them as well, just to make sure you know exactly where the alignment is. There's an extra couple of little brackets to go on at this stage as well. Don't worry so much about them, because once everything's in place, then you can just lay them on into the proper position. There's also a support bar goes from the gun sights to the main housing of the gun as well. That just pushes on, there's no cement required for that. The seat locations are on the foot platform, and the little stems just go into the location points there as also. Then all that's left to do is put the turntable on, which will fit onto the base of the flatbed. So this is where I'll end part 10. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out my channel for my other videos. If you subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit the notification bell, that way you'll be kept up to date not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit that like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But as I just put the finishing touches to this gun, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.